Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always a delight to have Patrick Doyle in the house. He heads up Veritas Counseling, and today we want to talk about how do you properly work with somebody that you know is addicted to something.
Yeah.
Is that kind of it?
Yeah.
You know?
I want to talk about, generally addicts aren't the ones that are going to listen to this show.
Yeah, so you want to turn it off, go ahead.
And generally the people that I deal with most frequently are people who are related to or love someone who's struggling with addiction.
Right.
And so the person who's addicted is in denial usually. They're like, what problem? Everything's fine. I don't need any help.
Yeah.
And so it's the people around them that generally are the ones who start the process. So we've done lots of shows on what is addiction, all that. I wanted to do a show really talking about what are some of the things you can do as a loved one or a friend or someone involved with somebody who's an addict. What can you do to help? And this is the question I get all the time. What should I do? Mm-hmm. And I always say, the first thing I say is, well, I would change the question.
Okay.
From what should you do to what can you do?
Okay.
Because should and can are very different things. Mm-hmm. And so many people who are addicted are resistant. You can do this and you can do that, and you can try this and you can try that, and what does it end up? Same old thing every time. You feel very frustrated, very hopeless, like there's no change. They're not willing. They lie, rationalize, minimize, justify, deny. And so it's very frustrating for the person. And what happens is, if you're not careful, the person who is trying to help becomes as sick as the person who's addicted. It becomes as consuming to the person helping. And so, it's like if someone's drowning and you go out to help them and they start spazzing out, what are you supposed to do?
Let them go.
Either that or knock them out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
But either way, you have to preserve yourself because you'll both drown. Right. And so when the healthy person starts to get sick, now we have a way less a chance of a good outcome. So this is one of the reasons why I want to talk about today. If you're the person in somebody's life who's trying to help, you have to maintain some health. Otherwise, the whole thing can go south really quickly and you can become very overwhelmed. And the thing I see with a lot of people who are trying to help is they get what I call help fatigue. You get just worn out from trying to help somebody who doesn't want to be helped.
Right.
And the vast majority of my conversations are trying to help people who are trying to help recognize their limits.
All right. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, you're welcome to join us as well. If you want to remain anonymous, we understand this is a very delicate topic, and maybe you have some questions or concerns. Maybe you're frustrated in this whole area. You're welcome to join the conversation. The local number is 541-776-5368, or toll free if you're outside the immediate Medford area. Give us a buzz, toll free, 1-800-373-5368, and we'll conference you in. All right. Now, believe me, I've had my share of people come to me and say, I think this person is addicted to.
Right.
They can't find the evidence, but the conduct certainly suggests it.
Exactly.
Can you maybe explain that a little further?
Well, what I see with people who are in relationships, whatever kind of relationship it is, whether it be marital or friend or whatever, the person who is sensing that the person's an addict usually doesn't come to that until the evidence is stacked pretty high. So most of us want to deny what we see.
Right.
That's really not happening. Oh, it was just that one time, or they didn't mean that, or we rationalize ourselves because we don't want it to be true. So by the time somebody's in their gut saying, I think that might be a problem, I think if you're having that sense, you need to go talk to somebody who knows something about addiction and check it out. Don't deny it. Okay? So the other thing is that people who want to help they misunderstand their power.
Oh, okay.
So we think that because we notice it or we think they want to stop. But I've worked with thousands of addicts.
They don't want to stop.
That don't want to stop. Some do. And those two people are very different people. And remember, it's back to my undergirding belief that all change starts with conviction, okay, not confrontation.
Right.
So we think if we just tell them, or we give them enough help, or we loan them enough money, or we be nice enough to them, we give them a place to live, whatever, that they will magically change. And I'm one of the rules of thumb for an addict to change. This is the part people don't like, is I've never seen an addict change without significant pain. And what we tend to do is we see their life unraveling because their behavior is creating that. And then we go in there and we slide a mattress under them right before they're going to hit, because we're helping. No, you're not. If you're making it comfortable, you're not helping. What you have to do is pull the rug so that they hit. Now, here's where the dangerous part goes. I've seen people go to their grave in addiction. I've worked with lots of people who just didn't come back. My own parents, okay, died in addiction. And I've worked with hundreds of people in treatment centers who ended up dying in spite of lots of people trying to help. So this is the first thing we have to do, is we have to let go of the outcome. Listen, I can't control it. I want them to get better. I want them to live differently. I want them to be happy. I want them to be well, but I don't have any control. So the first thing you got to do is let that control go, because you don't have it. And that's really hard when you're talking about a family member or a spouse or a child, you know, and this is scary stuff, you know, because somebody may destroy themselves. And we don't want that, but we can't control it. And so what we want to do is maintain enough sanity in our own lives that if they do decide they want something different, we're not crazy from trying to help, right? So that we have some clarity. And so, you know, the idea that, you know, I think of the eagle. This analogy really helped me. When the eagle builds its nest, it builds it out of pretty rough materials, right? And it's usually pretty high. And so when the baby chicks, before they get there, they line the nest with soft feathers and down and make it really nice and comfortable and easy. And then when it's time for the bird to fly, they pick all that stuff out of the nest. So it's uncomfortable and the bird doesn't want to be in there anymore. And then they have to fly, okay? I think that's a good analogy of what we have to do. We want to keep padding it because they're having difficulty and they're always in some sort of crisis. You know, with somebody who's an addict, there's always something. And you can never get to the bottom of it. Well, you know, that guy and because, and then that thing and my guy and my boss and because, you know, and you can never get to like a clear statement, you know? And so you start to feel kind of crazy, like, well, golly, what, you know, everybody must be against you. I don't know, it must be true. Maybe nobody does like you. You know, you just can't believe that somebody's life could be that problematic.
One of the hard parts is it's hard to stand or sit on the sideline and watch somebody self-destruct.
Exactly, Perry.
I mean, when you're seeing somebody self-destruct, you're kind of going, you know, your humanness added to your humanness is your Christian belief system. You want to reach in there and grab this thing.
Right. And you know, I've done it both ways in my career, in my life. And I've had lots of family members who are addicts. I've been an addict. So, you know, this is something I know on a very personal level. I also know it as being a treatment professional for years. You know, your desire to want to make that better is healthy. Where it gets unhealthy is when you deny the fact that you can't help.
Okay. I think that's probably where we need to camp. I've got to take a break here in a moment. But there actually comes a time where you can't help because the person either doesn't want it or doesn't believe they need it. Maybe both. But at that point, they are a human being responsible for their own life. Right. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's always true. And so when we get back from the break, we'll talk about many people who are trying to help others in this situation. They feel guilty because they see that their life's not going well and they want to help, and they feel guilty because all the things they're doing aren't helping.
All right.
And we'll talk about the dynamic of that when we get back from the break.
If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Maybe you have somebody in your family that is addicted to something and you really want to help. And if you have any questions about this, you're welcome to join us. The local number is 541-776-5368. The toll-free number is 1-800-373-5368. We'll take a break. We'll be right back with Patrick Doyle.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at the Deaf TV. Did you know that when you support the Deaf TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back with Patrick Doyle, Veritas Counseling, and today we're talking about working with somebody that you know has got an addiction, or you sense maybe has an addiction, and what should be your approach. How do you go about this? It's very difficult, especially if it's somebody you love, and you can become extremely frustrated, and you can do all the wrong things with the right reasons, and just make the situation worse. And so maybe you have some questions along this line. Maybe it's somebody very close to you, and you know and sense that they're addicted to something, but they're not taking your advice. Anyway, you're welcome to join us, 541-776-5368, or toll free, 1-800-373-5368. And as we were going to the break, it's interesting that you have to reach a point where you may not be able to do anything.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard this so many times, Perry, from people. They say, I just feel guilty not helping.
Right.
And I understand the feeling of guilt. Here's what I tell people. If you could help and you didn't, feeling guilty would make sense.
Okay.
But when you recognize the reality of the situation is, you probably can't help.
Yeah.
So
I always start that with this, because I've experienced similar things with people coming to me in the years gone by, and I always say, well, have no regrets.
Yeah. Right.
Try to do what you can.
Yeah.
But you're going to reach a point where you can't do anything. At least you satisfied the fact that you've tried.
Right. Most people in the addicted situation, one of the rules of thumb I have, if you're working harder than the addict at their problem, you're on the wrong track.
Duh.
But this is really common. Because the addict has one rule. Protect, supply.
Wow.
Whatever I have to do to keep doing this, I'll do. Run my mom over, steal, lie, cheat, doesn't matter. And they're not thinking of it as that. They've got it rationalized, and they've got it minimized, and they've got it justified. They're not living in reality. So every addict to survive has to have denial. That's the only way. And so we approach them like in this context of our right and wrong and good and bad and do this and don't do that, and they chuck that. They don't even, that's not even a part of their deal.
Are they rational?
No.
Okay.
They're committed. They're committed to doing what they have to do to get what they need to get. And it doesn't matter who's standing in their way.
Okay. Boy, that's a big part of the equation. Somebody told me yesterday, when logic doesn't work, don't apply it.
Yeah. Well, my saying is, crazy doesn't make sense. You know, and when somebody's being, acting in a way that's self-destructive and others destructive, that's not sanity.
Yeah.
It's never sane to do something that's self-destructive.
Okay. I want to deal with consequences.
Okay.
I think that's a big
we'll get
part.
to that.
All right, you're welcome to join us. Hi, Eileen. What's your question today?
I have a friend who's a fairly young man, maybe 55. Anyway, he chews. He's a fine Christian man.
Yep.
He has a great knowledge of the Scriptures. He's very, very astute about wanting the Word preached properly and everything.
Right.
And yet, he's destroying himself. His teeth, he has horrible attacks of acid indigestion. And this is all from chewing. I know it is. And I told him, I said, God doesn't want you to do that. You need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And he just continues to do it.
So why do you think he does it?
I don't know. Well, he's addicted to it now. He's been doing it, but it's awful to ride in his car with him because I don't drive anymore, and he always gives me a ride to the grocery store, and he has a little cup that he spits in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this man is so clean and such a good person. If anybody's in need, he'll go over and buy their groceries or anything.
Right. And so because he chews doesn't mean he's a bad person.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
I'm confirming that's not what you're saying, that you're saying he's a good person, but he keeps doing this thing that's destructive. My question to you is, there's a reason why he does it. One is he likes it. And the consequences to him, he has rationalized. If all my teeth fall out, if I get throat cancer, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the fact that I want to do this. And here's back to what I'm saying. You can talk to him till you're blue in the face. Won't make a difference.
Oh, no, I won't talk to him. The one time I said to him, I worked with a man who had surgery because of that, and we fed him with a pitcher. We poured liquid into his mouth. He couldn't chew or swallow hardly.
Right. But you know, one of the things that that we think is that if we talk about the consequences of the addiction, that people will stop. But that's never true. Look at how many people die from smoking, from heart disease, from liver failure, from all the, overdoses.
Overeating,
consequences do not change people. If that were the case, nobody would be addicted. So I want to know, if he's a Christian, why doesn't he feel any conviction about the damage he's doing to himself?
Right.
And that's the question I would ask him. I wouldn't even talk about the chewing.
Oh, no.
I'd ask him, why do you not have any conviction about the harm you're doing to yourself? And see what he says.
I will.
I mean, well, hopefully it'll spark a little conviction in him.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eileen. All right, you're welcome to join us. The phone number is 776-5368. We're talking to Patrick Doyle about how to help somebody that may be very close to you that is addicted to something, and what's your role in that? Hi, Ted. What's on your mind today?
I had to turn off the radio. I didn't want any background. Okay. So when we were talking before, the guy that chews, that might be a little different addiction. I mean, it is addiction, obviously.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of before that. You're talking about people who are crazy or insane, and so they don't really know. I would say they don't really know what they're. I mean, they may understand what they're doing, but it sounds like they really don't know what they're doing. It's people I guess that have compulsive behavior disorder too, I guess. And so here we are, Christians. And here that person has damaged himself, maybe to the point, depending on your theology, maybe to the point that they even walk away from God. So that being the case, where does prayer factor in for those people and for yourself to try to reach them? Because it seems that we just can't be cavalier about it and say, well, they're screwed up, so I'm not going to get involved. I tried. Right. I don't want to be guilty of casting pearls to the swine.
Right.
So how do you deal with it? Deal with that part.
So is your question, Ted? What role does prayer have in the process of helping someone who's addicted?
Well, I think that's a short. I mean, that's a short stroke on that. But
okay.
But I mean, prayer as a whole, reaching out and us dealing with ourselves in helping somebody, because we're all. You admitted it, we're all a bit crazy to begin with. Oh, where's our confession?
Yeah, well, in the instance that we're talking about where we're trying to help someone who is addicted and being self-destructive, the role that I would hope prayer would take is, first and foremost for me, is that I would be asking God to give me wisdom and to help me be obedient to what He wants me to do, rather than me trying to figure it out on my own and doing all these good ideas that I come up with, rather than doing it secondary to God's conviction of me. And that's the other thing I would say to folks is that, listen, your help of someone else in every circumstance, in my opinion, not just addiction, should be the result of your conviction. Not you being a do-gooder or not you doing what you think other people expect, but we should be living our lives out of conviction, not some other motive. And so that requires me to spend some time with God and really ask Him and put it on the table to see what He would have me do. And I also might need to talk to somebody else who I find spiritually mature or healthy so that I can check that. And obviously, we want to, it always has to be confirmed by what the Scripture says.
Okay. We just don't throw them away and just walk.
Well, I think that sometimes what God calls us to is not continuing in a relationship with them, i.e. what God instructed Paul to do in 1 Corinthians 5 with the guy who was sleeping with the stepmom. Hey, if he doesn't repent, kick him out. Let the consequences come. And the consequences, we hope, will bring about conviction. But never are we casting someone out because we don't care. Sometimes very painfully, we allow them disconnection in hopes that that will convict them.
All right.
I think that's a good distinction.
Thanks, Ted. You're welcome to join us, 541-776-5368 or toll-free 1-800-373-5368. We're dealing with how do you help somebody that's an addict one way or the other. They seem to be, addicts seem to be manipulative.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because if they were honest, would you participate? Hey, I want you to give me $20. I'm gonna go buy some crack.
Yeah.
I mean, and I use that as an extreme example, but there's all kinds of examples. And everyone who's trying to get their way instead of being loving is generally manipulative in some fashion, whether it be power and control, or whether it be playing the victim, or whether it be lying, rationalizing, minimizing, making up stories, and so. Really that's what I keep wanting to get back to, is that those of us who are in the lives of the addicts have to maintain some objectivity and some health. Otherwise, we get sucked into the process of being just as sick as they are. And that looks differently because I'm not getting loaded, but internally and emotionally, I'm all spun up. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any peace, and they run me up one side and down the other, and they can spin me up or spin me down. They gain control, and I say to people all the time, we don't want to let crazy drive the boat.
Okay, there's the threat of consequences, and then there's the actual act of consequences.
Yes.
At what point do they become individualized?
Okay, so with an addict, I would say never threaten a consequence unless you intend to do it. Because here's the deal: if you say, well, if you don't, because and then you don't follow through, you just embolden them. Now they're like, they don't have the will, and they'll ratchet up their manipulation on you. And so, but no one sits down and writes you an email and says, now because you didn't follow through, now I'm gonna treat you worse.
Yeah.
It just happens. And so you have to have some clarity. And this is why I would encourage you to talk to somebody who knows about addiction. This is why I would encourage you to get get around some other people so you can check. I mean, if you went to somebody who you trusted and had some maturity and you checked your belief structure, you'd probably come away going, well, yeah, I probably shouldn't feel guilty about that. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm trying to help them. At what point is your help now hurting? That would be a question I would ask, And I think, particularly when I look at parent situations, that's where I see the line, or family situations, the line gets really blurred because it's my child. What do you mean I can't help them? What do you mean I have to let them suffer? What do you mean they might go to jail? What do you mean they might die? I can't let that happen. And so, again, a lot of times parents don't have the will, and until God helps them, they won't.
Yeah.
And so part of our job is to support them in that struggle. And that's a very difficult thing.
All right, let me take a break. If you want to join us, give us a call, 541-776-5368, or toll free 1-800-373-5368. And if you have any questions about how do you handle an addict, or what do you do, give us a call. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at the Dove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market. But at the Dove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Patrick Doyle's with us, and today our topic is how do you reach out and minister or help someone that you believe is addicted to something. Maybe you know what it is openly, but whatever the case is, what is the proper way of doing that? And maybe you've become frustrated with it, you're scared about it, don't know what to do. This is a great opportunity for you to give us a call, 541 877-656-5368 is the local number. And then if you're outside the immediate Medford area, wherever you may be listening or watching, you're welcome to join us, 1-800-373-5368. Part of the addiction problem that I've noticed through the years is you'll know that something is wrong because there's this pattern developing that of no change.
Yeah.
And there seems to be an augering in of a lifestyle that doesn't seem to have any freshness to it. It's just there. But you don't know what it is. You don't know what the addiction is. You can't seem to pinpoint it, but there's something going on in this person's life that's making them auger in.
Yeah,
what do you do with that?
Well, and that's part of what we call the crazy making, because you know something's happening, but because they're not telling the truth and they're not being honest about it, and they're minimizing it and they're justifying it and they're rationalizing it, but there's a part of you that just like, there's something wrong here, but you can never like get an answer. Oh, I drank a fifth last night, or I smoked, an eighth in the last, whatever. So what happens is that until you have some clarity about what they're doing, which is maybe a confrontation, you say, I'm concerned about what's going on. It feels to me like maybe there's some addiction going on. Maybe, I don't know, it seems like you're a little out of control. I'm concerned about you. Okay. Now, here's the thing. With addicts, you're not going to get a clear answer. Very rarely, maybe after treatment, maybe after sobriety, they'll come to you and say, oh yeah, this is what I was doing. But generally, they're not going to come clean. So you have to go have that face-to-face, and you have to trust what your senses say, not so much your brain, because they're going to lie to you, and they're going to send you on a rabbit trail. They're going to try to minimize, justify, and they're going to try to do the smoke and mirrors thing with you and get you off the scent, right? And so, but you watch behavior and you don't listen to words. Okay? You were late for work. You missed your payment. You haven't, whatever. You see the behavior that's going on, and when you talk to them, you don't talk about I think, I feel, or whatever. What you do is you say, here's what I see. And then you're very concrete about behavior that you have seen firsthand. You haven't made your payment, you haven't been treating your kids well, your husband thinks you're up, whatever. So it's very behavioral, it's very concrete. Now, they're going to flip out. I have never confronted an addict who's in denial and had them go, oh, gee, thanks. I have been taken to the floor on a few occasions in a treatment center when I confronted somebody because they were so angry that I would say those things about them, even though I had, a stack of evidence to the ceiling. So I just want you to understand, don't expect people to go, oh, okay. And if they do, you should be suspicious. It's probably manipulation.
Are they on a collision course?
With something bad, yeah. Okay. Because you can't be controlled by a substance or a compulsion and end up in a good place. Anytime, anywhere. I mean, how many more examples from culture do we need? We just had one this past week. This actor at 40, I don't know, 48, 49, died of an overdose. Very talented guy. I mean, how many more times is this going to happen?
I don't know.
A lot.
This is a lot, yeah. Anyway, you're welcome to join us. Let's go to the phones. Hi, Russ. What's on your mind today?
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hey, listen, I got a 33-year-old son, lives up in Central Oregon, and he's dealing with alcohol issues, the old wine, women, and song thing. He's been on and off this crazy cycle a half a dozen times. And I just need to know how much... I've been clean and sober for 5 years, and I see a lot of pattern in what he does, and I've worked through the guilt issues of that, I think.
Good.
But I just wonder how involved I should get. I mean, we've had the conversations. He kind of goes into seclusion. I don't hear from him for a long while.
Right.
And then he'll appear again, you know, that kind of thing.
He usually appears when he has a need?
Oh, yeah. He's a taker for sure. In fact, that's one of my biggest issues. I've got a mother in California who every time he calls her, she sends him cash.
Yep. Yeah, and see, this is the thing that, until the family system starts to deal with him as a whole, like on a unified front, he'll find the weak link.
Right.
Until he has some sort of conviction or change. Now, I noticed when you asked the question, you said, what should I, how involved should I be? And again, I want to change the question to how involved can you be? I mean, you have to take into consideration your own boundaries. I mean, you having been through a process of recovery, you know that giving him money isn't the answer.
Right.
and you know that helping him out of his difficulty that he created by his unhealthy behavior isn't the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So now comes the hard part is, can I watch some of the difficulty happen and hope that it brings him to his knees? And then if he comes out of the pain and says, hey, Dad, I really recognize I'm out of control, I need help, that's a whole different thing. Then you put your resources in because they're in a receptive place. You're not wasting your resources.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And so, you're going to need to probably sit down with your mom and say, Mom, look, you're hurting him by giving him money. And here's why. And I've talked to, hundreds, maybe thousands of addicted families with addiction in it. And here's the thing. They think that if they give them money that it's going to solve the problem. And what the family doesn't do is talk about the reality of the behavior of the person they're trying to help. Hey, Mom, he's doing this, 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 and this. I'm pretty sure she's not going to want those kind of behaviors to continue.
Well, I'm sure that's the case too, and I've told her, I pray a tough prayer for my kid every night, that God will take him wherever he needs to go to figure it out.
Yeah, tough.
And so I share that with my mom, and I thought the last thing we need to do is, as you put it, throw a mattress under him before he hits the ground.
Exactly.
And she shakes her head the right direction, but she just has no willpower when he
she says
calls.
She says yes. Her mouth is saying yes, her head is saying no. And so that's an ongoing relational issue between you and your mom of her coming to a place of health as well. I mean, she's coming from a place of sympathy or, wanting to help, and she didn't want anybody to suffer and all that. And you might need to educate her a little bit about the reality of the circumstance. And I found that to be true in my own circumstance when I work with people. The more I can get them into the reality of what's happening with the person, the more it sobers them up to, oh, well, we're helping them do that? Well, we don't want to do that. Instead of everybody sort of turning a blind eye to, oh, they're fine. They just need a little financial help and they'll be fine.
Well, one of the comments I've heard is, well, it took you until you were 50 to figure it out. He's only 33.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he doesn't waste another 15 years.
That's my prayer.
Yeah. And so we don't know when God's timing is. And this is why I think it's so important that you be in a place of moving out of conviction, not out of trying to prevent the outcome you don't want.
I hear you.
Okay. Thanks, Russ.
And I wish
thank you guys.
I wish I had a nice, pleasant way to say everything will be all right, but I just seen too many people go to their graves in this stuff, and we don't know what'll happen.
All right, let's go to, hi, Joel. What's your thought today?
After working for over 30 years in recovery programs, thing I have found as a Christian leader is that we need to lead them into green pastures and by still waters, and not try to drive them into treatment.
Yeah, right. You know the saying, Joel, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink?
You can take them out in the stream, maybe, but that's about as far as you can go.
I changed the saying. It's true you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can give them a lick off a salt tablet and encourage their thirst.
That's true. You know that one, Pat.
And I think that's what you're talking about, is that through our relationship, we want to increase their thirst for the wellness, rather than browbeating them into what we want. Would that make sense to you?
Totally, and the other part of it is we leave the rest to God. He separates out the sheep from the goats.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Joel. What do you say to somebody that becomes angry? They just can't seem to make any progress, and they find themselves internalizing this, and now they're dealing with a sickness themselves.
Yeah, so
I mean, I've had people in my office who are just absolutely furious at what's going on.
Right, because
I realize there's other issues on the table besides the person that's addicted,
So the person who's trying to help is furious, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where you're going to end up. When you're talking to somebody who doesn't want to change and they keep coming to you to help them change, eventually the anger, and remember, I believe anger is, the thing that gets to the surface, but below anger is hurt, and below hurt is injustice. It's like, why is this person doing this to me? They're just using me. That's irritating me. That's hurting me. I don't like that. And I've never met an addict that wasn't a user of people, because we have to be to survive. If I was independently, if I was, Howard Hughes, I could lock myself in the top room of my,
penthouse
in my, my hotel and just, be by myself. But that's the vast majority of addicts have to have other people to keep it working. And they have to have money because they're not, taking care of business, so they're spending too much. And the end result of somebody not getting help with addiction is their life will be destroyed. It won't have any quality to it of any kind. They might have money, but they're not going to. The thing that we say in recovery is that addicts don't have relationships. They take hostages. And if you feel like a hostage, that's because they're probably addicted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let me take a break. If you want to join us, give us a call, 541-776-5368, or toll free, 1-800-373-5368. We'll be right back with Patrick Doyle.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at the Dove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back. Patrick Doyle's with us, and we're going to wrap this up today. We're talking about dealing with people that have an addiction. There's something in their life that's got control of them that doesn't allow them the freedom and the love and the common sense that you want to see in their life. And it's starting to spill over into relationships, into money management, into jobs, the whole gamut of things.
Right.
And you're sitting there and you're saying, well, hey, I want to jump in there and help. And that's noble and probably a very Christian thing to do. But how do you do that?
Yeah.
And can you do that? Is a big question.
Exactly.
So if you want to join us, we'll take your calls, 541-776-5368. That's the local number, 541-776-5368. And then the toll-free number is 1-800-373-5368. This is an interesting thing because I guess we have a hard time in today's culture still believing that this is so common and addicts are able to get whatever they're addicted to so easily. Granted, it takes money. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I am still shocked that the network system out there is so vast. It's easy to get marijuana.
Easier than
meth,
ever now.
Anything, it's just out there.
Yeah, and marijuana is, there's a lot of talk about how it's not really a problem and it's not really a drug. But as somebody who is addicted to marijuana, I'm here to tell you that it'll destroy you. But the way that marijuana destroys people is very different than the way other drugs destroy people.
Okay, that may be where we ought to go. What are the symptoms of marijuana versus meth versus something else, harder drug?
So when you're talking about meth or alcohol or heroin or those kind of drugs, you're talking about a drug that has a very quick high. You take the drug and you're high really quickly, and then it goes out of your system relatively quickly. Marijuana is more like this slow arching thing that is almost imperceptible. So people who are addicted to weed don't have these what we consider addicted behaviors, because if you smoke weed today, it's going to take 16 days roughly to get half of that out of your system.
Really?
Yeah. If I went in the other room and drank an ounce of alcohol, I'd be a little tipsy, but in an hour it's gone. Right? Weed's really long half-life. Okay, so that's why you don't see the withdrawal factor. That's why they say it's not addictive. But I'm telling you, that's not true.
It's a gateway.
Well,
more than a gateway, I guess.
I think my opinion is that nicotine is the gateway.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
All right.
So all the things you have to do to have a good addiction, lie, break the law, do all these things, go, hide. I mean, you get somebody who's 15, 16, 13, 12, whatever, and they smoke cigarettes. They have to do all the things necessary to start building denial.
Right there.
Yeah. And so, it's just cigarettes. I'm not a drug addict. But you have to start developing all the structures that you need to have a good denial system. And so that's why I think it's the other thing I think about nicotine that no one's really talking about is that in all my years in treatment, what I noticed was that nicotine, so when you intake nicotine, nicotine's a stimulant. So it increases your heart rate and constricts your blood vessels, which is basically the exact same response your body has for stress. You're preparing for fight or flight, right? Mm-hmm. Your heart rate increases and your blood vessels constrict. So you feel stressed out, you smoke a cigarette, and you feel relief. But you just doubled your stress response. Mm-hmm. So how could you feel relief? Well, the reason why you feel relief is because nicotine distracts you from the feelings, internal feelings you have, and that's the relief. But physically, you got no relief. You just doubled your stress response. So I believe that nicotine is way all about emotions. That's why people smoke. It distracts them from how they feel. And this is the other thing I was going to say is that, listen, I've never met an addict that wasn't deeply pained. Under every addiction is a profound level of hurt. And just remember that hurt is in the eyes of the beholder. It doesn't matter whether or not I think it should hurt. Mm-hmm. If they believe it hurts, that's usually the fuel system for the addiction, because the addiction's all about altering how I feel. Mm.
Boy, very well said. All right. Hi, ma'am. You're on the air. What can we help you with?
Hi. I just wanted to speak to the marijuana thing. I have a son who I believe is addicted to the marijuana, and we had to actually kick him out of the house 10 days before Christmas a year ago because we had asked him not to do it, and he did it anyway. And his excuse was, well, you told me not to smoke it in the house or on the property. And I said, no, I don't want it in your body while you live here.
Right.
But we go around and round, and he just is, he says he's a really strong Christian, but we go round and round on this topic, and he says that it's a substance that God created. And but I see it as destroying his life.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what to do, because, you know, you really hit the nail on the head when you said you feel like a, you didn't say victim, but being held hostage.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm being held hostage whenever he comes back into my life. And it's just, I don't know how to get victory over this.
How old is he?
32.
Ah, okay, so the first place to start is for you to accept that he's a pot smoker.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. You desperately want him to do something else.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
So here's the deal. It gets in your way of loving him. And here's what I'm saying is he's an adult man. He's got his own life. What I want you to do is ask God for help to love him where he's at. You can't control him. You can't tell him what to do, but you can love him. And here's the deal. He's running from something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I guarantee it's something. And there's also a cultural thing going on right now in our country where weed is in vogue. Weed is cool. Weed is good. Weed is what everybody needs. If we all smoked weed, we'd have a better country. And I've talked to hundreds of people about all the arguments about how weed is not as bad as alcohol and all these other things and how they justify that. But at the end of the day, I'm still altering my mind. Why do you need to alter yourself? Why is reality not good enough? Right. And this is what I'm saying is that if you can get to this place where you can say, son, talk to me about what's going on inside of you. Just skip the weed. Just don't even talk about it. But get below the surface of what's going on in your world. How do you feel about yourself? I mean, what's going on? How are your relationships? How's your job? And do not give him one ounce, not any, unsolicited advice.
Okay. That's going to be hard, as a mom.
I know. But see, every time you give him advice, he hears you say he's a failure.
Okay.
And I know that's not...
that makes sense.
I don't think that's what you want.
No, absolutely not.
So what I want you to do is talk to him. I would even go so far as sometimes to confess your own sin to him. I don't mean, deep, dark, heavy stuff, but, confess what you're struggling with. Be a real human. Don't try to be the standard he needs to meet.
Okay.
And
that's good advice.
Try to connect with him, because here's the thing. I say this all the time to parents, and I don't care how old your kids are. Authority is empowered by relationship. And when we destroy the relationship over the behavior, right? See,
right.
And so listen, can you have a relationship with him? I don't know. We'll see. Can you have a relationship with him on some level? So,
well, I do have a relationship. It's just there's
a block.
Boundary that I need to set in order to have peace in my own home.
Right. He can't do it in your home. He can't be a part of that. But, he's 32. He's going to have his own life.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is that you make that boundary, but you also love him from where you're at. Instead of trying to say, if you do this, this, and this, then we can have this deep relationship that I want. Maybe what you have to do is accept that all he's willing to do is this little one. Yeah. And if that's what he's willing to do, then live inside of that.
Well,
and maybe
I feel like we have a good relationship.
And maybe God through whatever situation you're in will speak to him through you. Maybe he won't. But I do know this. There's probably nobody on the planet that loves him more.
Oh, I know God would use a donkey to speak to him. But I'm not worried about that.
Did you hear what I said?
What was that?
There's nobody on the planet that loves him more than you.
I know that.
Okay? So I would also maybe at times let him in on how hurt you are that the relationship's where it's at.
Yeah.
And let your emotion to the surface. I can hear it in your voice. And I want you to get a little more real with him and let go of the outcome.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I can work on it. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome.
Wow. That was brilliant. Let me see if I can squeeze Lori in real quick. Lori, I only got a couple seconds, but go ahead quickly.
Pat, I just wanted to say your response to this lady is so incredibly outstanding. And I want to thank God for the wisdom that was able to give. Agape love looks past the fault to see the need. And Jesus always addressed the need. And you just incredibly addressed this woman's need. It was so healing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
All right, thank you, Lori. It was brilliant. I think that in that answer came a real valuable part of this trying to help, and that is, well, first of all, the outcome, just get that off the table.
Yeah, we can't control it.
Two is, if it is a relative, and your love for that relative is being affected by what you perceive they should be doing, you'll never conquer this thing.
Because when you start to see them as your agenda, you have to fix them, you cease to love them. Because now it's about you, getting what you need so you can feel better. And addicts, I've never met an addict, Barry, this is the crazy thing. I've never met an addict, and I've met hundreds, thousands, that wasn't really perceptive. They're always very perceptive people. They're always highly perceptive people, and usually sensitive.
So truth can get in, whether they accept it or not. But
that's another story.
It can get in.
Right. And if they know you care about them, that will open the door more than anything else.
This isn't fair, but does an addict fear losing that control? That's why they don't give it up?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
That's a longer
That's another
answer.
show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Sorry about that. That was a big question at the last minute there. All right. Veritas Counseling.
622-6018.
622-6018.
Or veritascounseling.com.
Or veritascounseling.com. All right. Patrick Doyle. Thanks, friend.
You bet.
We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.